They say Nigerians are strong. We smile through pain, we laugh through stress, but behind the smiles lies a silent crisis: mental health. Every day, millions wake up fighting invincible battles: anxiety, depression, trauma, and fear. Yet, only a few ever find help. For many, pain is something to pray away, not to be treated. Across Lagos, Abuja, Just, and the villages of the north, people are breaking quietly. Behind the traffic noise and the laughter of everyday life, their hearts hurting in silence. This is Behind the Smile, the untold story of Nigeria's mental health crisis. Nigeria, a nation of more than 200 million people, has fewer than 300 psychiatrists. That means one psychiatrist for about 700,000 Nigerians. 80% of people with severe mental health needs never get treatment, not because they don't want help, but because help simply doesn't exist nearby. Hospitals are few, facilities are overcrowded, and stigma keeps many far away. In 2023, Nigeria signed into law the National Mental Health Act, a promise to protect the rights of people living with mental illness and to integrate care into primary health centers. But on the street, many still ask, has anything really changed? To understand the crisis, we first have to understand what mental health really means. I spoke with Rejoice, a clinical psychologist, to help us break it down beyond the myth and beyond the stigma.
What exactly is mental health? I actually do love this question as it will bring a lot of clarity around the word mental health. I personally feel the word mental health is one of the most misunderstood words out there, as some persons don't really have an understanding of what the word means. So whenever the word mental health comes up, there is this no, 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 no. There's this certain kind of there's this way we picture it. I don't really have the right words to explain it, but we have this bias towards the word mental health. Maybe because of the kind of culture or the kind of environments we find ourselves. Now, going back to the question, what is mental health? Mental health basically is the state of one's emotional, physical, psychological and social well-being. Sorry, I said physical. It has nothing to do with the physical basically, even though you can find its manifestation physically. Mental health simply refers to the state of one's emotional, psychological and social well-being, and it affects how a person think, or a group of persons think. It affects how they feel, it affects how they behave, react to things, how they handle stress, and how they also relate with others, as well as how they make decision. Yes, and just like every other person has a physical health, everybody here on earth has a mental health or illness. Well, like I earlier said, mental health is the state of one's emotional, psychological and social well-being. Now, mental illness is a condition, yes, or it refers to conditions that affect the way a person think, the way a person behaves, the person's mood. Yes, mental illness is actually a problematic condition or problematic conditions that affect your mental health. Yes, just like you can say malaria is affecting my health. Just like you can say malaria is affecting my health. Mental illnesses or illness are those things that affect your mental health. Yes. and they also affect your ability to respond to life challenges as well as handle or manage your emotions or stress effectively. In Nigeria, some of the most common mental health condition we have, I think the first on the list should be depression, yes. And what is depression? Depression is simply persistent sadness, hopelessness, or loss of interest in normal activities. These normal activities refer to activities that you actually used to find pleasurable. Yes, when you find yourself losing interest in things that normal, these are the things I used to do. When you just find a person who, for example, a person who likes going out with friends, all of a sudden you see the person withdrawing back into their shell and then it's something that is persistent, not just a once in a while thing. When it becomes persistent, yes, that's when we could say depression. Then second on the list for me should be anxiety disorders. And what is an anxiety disorder? It's basically the excessive fear or worry about one's life. Excessive, yes, it is very, very normal to be worried and to have fears, but when it becomes excessive, like so much of it, that's an anxiety disorder. Now another on the list, the third one for me, the list has nothing to do with any research or something. This is basically for me what I can see with my two eyes. The next on the list for me should be substance use disorders, where this substance use disorder. These substances could actually be prescriptive and non-prescriptive substances. Prescriptive like opioids, non-prescriptive like alcohol, marijuana, and other drugs. Yes, and we also have psychotic disorders. Examples, we have schizophrenia, and this particular disorder has to do with distorted thinking, hallucination, delusion, see what only you can see, talking to people that no one can see. I feel this is also a part of the common mental illnesses we see in Nigeria. And we also have bipolar disorder, which has to do with alternative episodes of extreme moods. This means this person is excessively happy, like you're over the moon. The next minute, the person is so depressed. And we also have post-traumatic stress disorder, that's PTSD, and it has to do with emotional distress that follows exposure to traumatic events such as violence, accidents. Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder. I think that's also a part of some mental illness we have in this country.
In Nigeria, common conditions include depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and substance use disorders. But most people never get a diagnosis, either because they can't afford help or they fear what society will say. Experts estimate that 1 in 8 Nigerians live with some form of mental illness, yet less than 10% receive professional care.
Signs. I'm actually repeating that word because speaking from the psychological arm, we have a lot of mental illnesses. We have quite a number of them, and these mental illnesses have symptoms that are peculiar to them, and you can't generically say, okay, generally these are the symptoms, this is what you're supposed to look out for, this is that. But I believe as an individual, you should know how you behave, how you respond to things and everything. So when there is a slight deviation from normal, I think that could actually be a symptom. You know yourself, you know how you behave, you know how you react. When you sit down and you see a pattern of abnormalities, for example, you're someone someone who likes to go out, someone who is always happy, always excited, and all of a sudden you notice this pattern of decline and the whole thing. You just find yourself withdrawing from people, you just find yourself feeling low persistently when it is a slight and consistent deviation from normal, then I think that should be a symptom. And when you see yourself seeing things and hearing things that no any other person is, I'm saying these things because all the mental illnesses I mentioned earlier, they have ways they can be diagnosed, and psychologists don't diagnose people without falling back to what we call our psychological bible. That's the DSM-5. It contains a number of mental conditions and symptoms to look out for. So there is no generic symptom. No, there are no generic symptoms. So just pay attention to yourself or whoever is involved, and once you notice a deviation, a persistent deviation from normal, then you actually have symptoms. You actually have something to look out for. Yes. And who can be affected? Well, can anyone develop a mental challenge? Yes, anyone can develop a mental challenge, regardless of your gender, your age, your social class. Yes, the rich can have mental illnesses. The poor too can have mental health condition. Just like a rich man can be sick, just like a rich man can develop typhoid, a rich man can develop malaria. Yes, anyone can develop a mental illness. How much do stress, poverty, and unemployment contribute to mental illnesses? When you come to this Nigeria, stress to be particular, this daily hustle, trying to survive, this, I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to make ends meet. It has a way of contributing, because you see depression when you can no longer get what you want, you're not getting that thing you're looking for, you find yourself thinking. All of a sudden, you just find yourself feeling like I'm not good enough, there's nothing beautiful about life, nothing good can come out of me. Stress in particular has a way of making you anxious. That's anxiety, excessive worry. Like you're just worried about where can I get a job, where can I. That was like when I was asked to mention mental illnesses that is very, very common in Nigeria. Depression was top on my list because we have a lot of people stressed, worried, and we have a lot of people stressed about making ends meet, and because you cannot make the ends meet, you find yourself thinking and feeling so hopeless, worthless, feeling guilty, this persistent sadness. You go out for a job interview, you did not get it consistently. And I also mentioned anxiety, which has to do with worry. When ends don't meet, you find yourself thinking about what your family can eat, what your family will eat. So stress, that is the way stress contributes to mental illnesses. And now talking about poverty. When you're poor, you don't have money to access healthcare, you don't have money to eat the right thing. It has a way of affecting your mental health, because there's a particular thing I read somewhere, and it says you are what you eat. When you're not feeding properly, there are lots of nutrients that your body is lacking. And there's something we call when it comes to factors that contribute to mental illnesses, there's one of the factors are biological factors, and amongst one of those factors we have what we call neurotransmitter imbalance. When there is an imbalance in the neurotransmitter, it can lead to a particular, because they are different neurotransmitters are different or responsible for different things. So if you should have a shortage of dopamine, you're your way to a mental condition. If you have a shortage of neurotransmitters,